Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Rhondda Valleys podcast. So this week's guests, I'm joined with Arthur Cole and Nigel Williams, and they are professional authors. So how are you both?
Very good, thank you.
Very well, yes. Thank you, Georgia. Thank you for the invite.
That's absolutely fine. I've been looking forward to this interview for a long time. And so first of all, we're going to talk about your books, each of them in turn. But how did you both start to get into writing?
Well, I actually started probably 10 years ago. I was rapidly approaching my 50th birthday, and it was a bucket list thing where I had this idea for a book, an adventure sort of story based in South Wales, and I set a deadline. I wanted to get it done by my 50th birthday, so I wrote the book, something like 100,000 words, sent it off to a publisher. They got pretty good feedback, but it never went any further, so I decided to self-publish it, and it did quite well, so that sort of encouraged me to keep going. I'd written, I think then, that was just before my 50th birthday. In the next year or so I wrote another couple of books, and then just by chance on Facebook I posted a message on a closed police group, because I'm a retired police officer as well. If anybody wanted to write the book, just to get in touch with me, and I'd see if I could give them a hand with it. And lo and behold, Arthur pops up on the Facebook page and says,
on the site,
that he had a story that he wanted to write. So
yes, it's quite funny really. I started writing towards the end of 2015, beginning of 2016. I write poetry. My father was a collier, so my poetry was basically coal mining and the World War I. So I'd written a couple of poems going into sort of 2016, and I was enjoying that obviously. And then obviously the message came from Nigel on the site, so I got in touch with him, not by phone. It was all done over the net. Saying I'd like to write a book. I had a few ideas, a few plots in my head, and it went from there. And I just said, well, send me 1,000 words done of a plot. I had no idea what I was doing because I'd never written a book or anything at all in my life. So I had this plot. He said, create a character, which I did, which is Terry Mcguire, who was a detective inspector.
Sounds good.
And I wrote, I made it about 2 corrupt police officers. The plots were about 2 separate corrupt police officers. So I sent 1,000 words down for the first plot. Didn't hear nothing for a couple of days, so I said to my missus, well, that's it, like, But in fairness, come back all over the internet. I like this. I like this plot. Can you send me 1,000 words about the next plot to run with it? So I did the same thing. I created another plot, and I just said I'd do a filler in between to bring the book together. So this went on for about 10 days. It took me about 10 days to write it. It wasn't a long one because I was never going to write another book. It was more of a bucket list. So that was going to be my book. If you came to the house, have a read of that, it's the book I've written.
Yeah.
So it was about 30 odd thousand.
I think it was.
Yeah, it was about 30 odd thousand. You probably read it in a day. So again, we hadn't spoken together. The next thing, I got a telephone call off Nigel after about 43 weeks. I got your book, Arthur. So we met in Porthcawl. First time I'd met Nigel. We had a cup of
coffee.
Yeah, I bought him coffee. Spoiled him. And he gave me the book on ethical conduct. So at that time it was Arthur Cole with Nigel Williams. So I said to Nigel, I said, what's that with? It should be Anne, surely. And he said, no, it's your book, all that nonsense. I said, well, no, you helped me to put it together. So he signed it for me, and we had a good chat, because I was in the police force. I was a detective sergeant. I was in the police force for over 30 years. I was a DS, and I was on the CID for like 26 of those years, so I've investigated everything. So we had a chat there, and we just going to leave, and I said, can I ask you something? I said, what's that about? Oh, no, prior to that, he said, we'll publish it. And the first thing I said to him, hang on a minute now, you ain't having no money off me for publishing anything. He said, no, I self-publish my own books, and I do it on Amazon, and it doesn't cost anything. And I said, whatever, and he said, you'll have some royalties off it. And I said, yeah, whatever, like if I do, I'll give it to Marie Curie, because my mate's wife had just passed away. So that's how it went. And just before I left then, Nigel said, can we write together? I said, well, what do you want to write with me for? You write your own books? He said, no. I said, I'd like to write with you. So that's what we did, and within the next 18 months we produced 8 thrillers in the series. And they got bigger as we've written them, obviously.
More experience now, the more you do it, obviously.
Yeah, and I picked up, obviously, in relation, the poetry's not so bad, because obviously poetry's totally different to writing a thriller or a book. But my writing has improved over that period of time. Obviously, it did off Nigel, obviously, because he's experienced. So we wrote about 8 thrillers in about 18 months. Now, after we wrote the first one, on ethical conduct, a friend of ours, John Wake, who's an author, said, why don't you go down to Octavia Publishing in Cardiff? I'm published by them, and the bloke who looks after me is a bloke by the name of David Norrington. So I rang Octavia, and in February Mr. Norrington said, yeah, come down tomorrow, I can give you an hour to give you some advice on covers and this type of thing. Nigel couldn't come, so obviously I didn't know what I was doing, because I'd never written books until the first one. So I took a few notes, covers, this type of stuff, and that was basically, I came back, I told Nigel, this is what the gent has said, Nigel, and we took it on board with the books, obviously. So that's as far as it went then, didn't it?
Yeah.
But I went to a presentation last May, one of John Wake's presentations in the Cardiff Central Library. And who was there was David Norrington, who was now an independent publisher, Wordcatcher Publishing.
Yeah.
He left Octavia, and obviously John had gone with him with other authors. So he asked how the books were going. I said, yeah, they're going all right, David. And that was basically, I wasn't there to have anything published. It was just, I went for John, basically. Anyway, the following day, I said to my missus, I think I'll give Mr. Norrington a ring now about my poetry. Yeah. So I rang him, and he basically said, look, I'm not doing anything with poetry because I'm passionate about it. He said, but at the minute I'm not doing anything at all with publishing poetry. I said, oh, that's fair enough. I said, no problem. I said, I got all these poems that I've written, I got about 300 poems. And he said, look, tell you what, send me two of the coal mining and 2 of the war poems down on a PDF. And I did that. The following morning, I had an email back, I'll publish all your poetry.
Oh my God.
So I rang Nigel.
I was like, what?
So I went down the following day, and obviously I signed the contract. And whilst I was there, David said, how are the books going? I said, they're going well. We've just finished the 8th book, and we've started the 9th. And he said, how many have you written? I said, 8. So he goes on, he gets the reviews. He said, got tremendous reviews. And he said, tell you what I'll do, he said, this new one that you're writing, which is called Raven, I'll publish that for you. And then he thought, he said, I tell you what, I'll republish every one of them. Oh. So I come back, and he said, I'll have to speak to Nigel, obviously. So I come back, I rang Nigel, and he fell off the chair when I told him. And then we went down the following day, and we signed the contract for the thrillers. So our publisher now is Wordcatcher Publishing. David Norrington has given us the opportunity to keep writing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
His theory is keep writing.
Obviously,
which is what we're doing.
And what made you go into the styles? Obviously, it's thriller. I love thriller, mind. I think it's more exciting than when you get into it. But what made you go into that kind of style of writing?
It's experience, really. I only served for 14 years. I got hit by a stolen car in 1994 on duty, fractured my spine, so I had to retire. But Arthur had over 30 years of experience dealing with all sorts of crimes. So, I mean, you couldn't ask for anyone better for plots.
Yeah.
So Arthur's full of plots. I mean, we're careful to make sure that we don't directly refer to any cases and things. That
you've got to watch the names and everything like that, yeah.
But there's so much material there that 8 books is really just scratching the surface. I mean, it could go on for another 8, another 10 books with the amount of material that we've got there. And it just makes it easy for me. We do all the work via email. So Arthur will write as he said earlier, perhaps 1,000 words, send it off to me. I'll put some polish on it, put the scene, set the scene, the smells, the tastes, the atmosphere to the scene, and then I'll send that back to Arthur. Arthur will change it if he feels it's not quite right what he had in mind. I'll write perhaps 1,000 words of a subplot, send that to Arthur. He'll send it back with alterations or suggestions, and the book just builds that way.
Yeah.
Arthur's pedantic in terms of timelines, which is great because I'm useless at that. So he keeps the plot ticking away through a specific timeline, and it's brilliant for me. It just makes everything so much easier.
Yeah. But obviously you must be quite, like, as much as obviously you didn't start till later on with age, what you must have been quite creative and good at writing, because I know a number of people who probably would like to do poems and books, and they just wouldn't have the talent to do it. So obviously, back when you were younger, did you ever have like that creativity, like going to school, ever like writing and thinking of imagination-wise? You got to be quite. I know you got experience in the force, but you must be quite good at imagination and things like that as well.
Well, I'm an art lecturer, so I suppose all through my life I've either painted or I've written. I remember writing short stories in my teens. So I've always written something. Never had any sort of aspiration to get published. How are you, Arthur?
Well, me, I've never written at all. I had a fabulous English literature teacher when I was in the comprehensive school, Mr. David John, from Mcguires. Sadly, he's deceased at the minute. But he came to our school in 1965, I think it was. He took over the English lit class. And the first day he came into our class, he looked like a cowboy. He's a handsome man. He'd just come from Canada, where he'd been teaching over there, and he had denim jeans on, cowboy boots, the jacket. The only thing he missed was the Stetson hat. And he started talking like an American. And then he told us he's from Mcguire. But what he did, he introduced us to the war poets, Wilfred Owen, Siegfried Sassoon, and he completely changed English lit in the comp, make no bones about that. But I left then, the following year. I joined the police in 1967, and I never did anything at all with poetry. I never even wrote poetry in school. I loved reading it, especially the war poetry. I loved reading it, but I'd never written anything. So obviously, where my writing came from is I was on the CID for like 26 years, and I compiled files of evidence for everything up to murders, rapes, robberies, etc. And all basically a file of evidence is a story. It's where you take statements of individuals and then you put it all together, and then you do like a covering report, like a synopsis. For a book, it's a covering report for the file of evidence. So that file of evidence, say, might be 500 pages, and you draft it down into about 30 for the barrister who's going to take the case on as a prosecutor. So I think that's where I got the writing. You get into the rhythm of writing and interviewing different people. And then obviously when I retired in 97, I became a gardener. So again, up until I retired again in 1965, and then in 1995, sorry, no, 2005, sorry, I was 65 in 2005. And then I just went on from there, and the first poem was Aberfan, which was 2015 at the end there. And my poetry's just followed on from there, and then together with the books. So I don't read. I'm not an avid reader of crime books or anything like that. I have read them in the past, but I'm not an avid reader like Nigel and my wife. I don't make any notes. I don't even make notes about the poetry. I get the first line and I just carry on. And same with the book. If I got a plot in my head, I just go to the word and I just write it out. Whatever it is, 1,500 words. I send it to Nigel. Nigel will adjust it or whatever. And then that's the chapter, basically. And just churn them out like that.
That's good. And obviously, so we speak about events and fairs you've been to? Because obviously I met both yourselves in the Rhondda Book Fair and Nigel in Treorchy.
Yes.
So can you tell us about all the events that you've gone to over the last few years?
Yeah, this year has been quite busy for us.
Yeah.
We've made a point of trying to promote the books ourselves. So we've been on the road quite a bit. We've been to Swansea. I think we've done pretty much nearly every library that we can think of within the area. We meet different groups, the Probus Society, the Women's Institutes. They're actually really good. It's a surprising fact actually, but it's something like 75% of all crime is read by women.
Yeah.
So if we go to do a talk in a Women's Institute group or at a library, majority of people come to listen are women because they love crime.
I like crime as well, so yeah.
Would you enjoy that one, George?
Yeah, I do. I like crime. All my types of films are all fighting based, things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, we try to get around most places. Don't we?
Yeah, we do. And
we went up to the. We got invited to the Durham Literary Festival. That was in June, wasn't it?
Yeah, we went up to Durham.
A long way to go, but we did go up there and we did a little talk up there. There weren't many people there, but. Saying that, we don't mind if it's 5, 6, 7, we don't care. We just give the story of the books and...
well, I've actually been to one where nobody turned up.
Yes.
That's a bit of a story in its own right.
Yeah.
I actually started writing as Nigel Williams, and then I discovered that, well, I actually knew there was another established author called Nigel Williams from Manchester. And I wondered if it would be a problem. And it did actually rear its head. I got invited to do a talk in Coventry Library. Now Coventry Library is a fantastic place. It's split over several floors. It's massive. It's a bit like Cardiff Central Library, huge place. And as I got there, the librarian came to meet me and she said, "Nice to meet you, Mr. Williams. We've got all your books out on the table ready for you." And I walked into this room and of course they were the books of the other Nigel Williams. And I started to panic. I thought, oh, they've now tried to promote this event for a Nigel Williams, and it's a different one.
Yeah.
So I thought, shall I confess now and own up to it? And I thought, I'll just hang on a minute now. I
need to think about it.
trying to think of a way out of this. So anyway, I went in, had a cup of coffee, waited, start time came, and nobody turned up. So I rang up Arthur. I said,
I was watching the race and I was a cup of tea, laughing when he told me.
Yeah, Arthur was laughing on the phone. So I was driving home and I rang my wife. My wife is called Caroline as well. And I said, nobody turned up. And she said, oh, there's a shame going all that way. And then I started laughing because I realised that they hadn't turned up for the other Nigel Williams.
Yeah, it wasn't for yourself, yeah.
That's right. So anyway, I thought I'd better add an initial. So I added the C into my name because I don't have a middle name, and the C stands for Caroline, so it's my wife's name. But yeah, so that was interesting. But you just never know how many people will turn up for these things. Even if it's a free event, sometimes you'll get a really good attendance, and sometimes hardly anybody turn up. But we'll go anyway. We don't really mind.
If we did 1 year and 6 people turned up, we'll just give the same. It'll be the same story hour or whatever. We can talk for hours.
It's fab. Lots of people have events. So it depends. I think it depends on time of year and there. Sometimes that matters, doesn't it?
Yes,
of course.
Yes.
And obviously the books, obviously thriller, are they aimed at certain ages? Would you recommend age appropriate for a maybe above a certain age?
Yes, because of the language.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, we tried. Arthur's main point when he started, he said to me he wanted to make it real.
Yeah.
Now it's not like these sort of midsummer murders where everything's neatly packaged. You see 2 detectives dealing with a murder in a village, and that's all they have to deal with. Well, as Arthur will tell you, he knows better than I do, that a detective has several cases running at the same time. And when you're dealing with criminals, they're not going to speak to you nicely.
No.
The language, we wanted to reflect it, life as a detective, as it really is. So there is a bit of bad language in the books. We have reined it in as we've gone along.
Yeah, when I wrote the first one, obviously I wasn't going to write another book. So it was sort of, it was all in there.
Yeah.
There's 185 swear words. We don't use the C word or anything like that, don't get me wrong. But there is bad language, it's villain's language.
Yeah.
And throwaway comments that detectives and policemen make because they got a black humour. So, but Caroline, my wife, read it and she said we'll have to cut the language out, which we have.
Yeah.
And as we did the talks, it was mostly women. So obviously we reined it in. So the language in the books, as they progress, has diminished.
Yeah.
But it hasn't taken away from the actual plots, if you understand me. So yeah, it's I think there were 185 in that one, in the first one.
Yeah.
Nigel's cut it down now, obviously, because we had to add another 10,000 to that to get it republished. Because what David has done, our covers we did ourselves, obviously initially on the self-publishing, but as a publisher, he wanted all the covers changed to make it more sort of professional, and he wanted all the books the same, because they're going to be the same length. Whereas from Amazon, you have one there, one's up there, and they're all different sizes. So these will all be sort of on a shelf when the 8 come out or whatever. They'll all be, and you'll know that they are word catcher.
That's really important because people have got bookcases. My husband got a bookcase and that really, really annoys him. He has certain books, like you say, are all from the same author, exact same line, and then if he has the odd book, and even it bothers me as well, even though it's not my bookcase, I'm like,
I know,
you don't know what to put in.
They'll all be uniform, and like the second one now, which is Edge of Integrity, that's hopefully that'll be out before Christmas. It's got a new cover, and it's a bit longer than that, obviously, and hopefully we'll have them all sort of republished in the new year. And
they go from the first book, which is roughly now 45,000 words, up to Raven, I think is 100,000 words. Yeah. So and they steadily get longer as you go through the series. But the reason for that as well is going back to this idea of realism. A detective might be dealing with more than one case at a time, and there might be something ongoing.
Yeah.
So while one case is solved, something else might be going on, or something else might be coming in. So we have stories that overlap in books in the series. So one story, there's a flasher on the dunes in Porthcawl in the first book, and that goes on for 3 or 4 books. So not everything gets resolved, and in life, not every crime is solved. No. So we try to reflect that in the characters and in the plot lines. The
flaws are there in the officers. Like this is about 2 corrupt detectives. One is a serving detective and the other is retired. When I wrote this book, I was having phone calls to say I was going to be sued by the people I'm writing about.
Right, yeah.
And this is off policeman. I said, well, why are they? He said, well, you know they are because you've written about it. I said, it's fiction.
Yeah.
Tell me who you think they are. I said, what bloke is going to ring me and say, look, you've written about me as a corrupt police officer?
I know, it's silly, isn't it?
It's a bit silly. So I said, this is a lot of nonsense. You could take that book to any police station in the world.
Yeah.
And read it, and whoever reads it will go, I know they are. Because they're everywhere. In every organisation.
They'll have a corrupt officer, but the whole point of this is that the book showed that it doesn't matter. They will be found out one day. They do get their comeuppance. They don't get away with it.
No.
And there are always policemen who are prepared to do that, to go out on a limb to make sure that the good name of the fellow officers aren't sort of aren't spoiled by people like that, the wrong people coming into the service, and so it's as close to reality as we can possibly make it.
And with Terry Mcguire, people say, who is he? I have no idea who he is. I just made him up through experience. People say it's you. Well, I never wrote it thinking it was me.
Yeah.
I didn't write the book in my own sort of persona. It was something that I made up. and he's progressed now through all the, and we've introduced our book now. We're about 30,000 words into, called Raven, where in the last one book we introduced a private detective called Raven Connor, who associates with Terry, and we've carried him into the new book. So that new book is more or less about him, and Terry is sort of on the sidelines. And our publisher thought that's a good idea to sort of bring it away from him a little bit. He's still in them, he's still in control, but you've got another character now. There's loads of characters in here. There's scenes of crime men, there's detectives, there's traffic officers. Everybody who's involved in, say, for a murder, they're in there.
It's about big characters now, like obviously there's another big character coming in now.
And we carry them through, and we kill them off as well, you know. You know what I mean, you've got to, because it happens in...
Do you get emotional when you've got to cut them off? Like, they've been in the book for so long now, and we've got to kill them off.
Nigel does, I don't.
Yes, it did. I won't mention the name of the character, not to spoil it, but there was one big character that went with us through, I think, 5 of the books. That unfortunately had to go.
Oh no!
And it's like
a plot came into my head, and I said she got to go. And he said, "Oh no," and I told him. He said, "Oh no, she can't go." And I said, "I just written it. She's gone." And then Nigel sort of, as soon as I said in the chapter, Nigel sort of does like the obituary of it, like, I mean. So
it was quite moving.
Quite funny that one. He was a bit upset. I said, "What's the matter?" "Oh, nothing. My character just died."
Yeah, I just killed someone.
But like I say, the good thing about it, we've got. I met a friend of mine yesterday who was he's an expert on footprints. In fact, he runs the department. And I met him in Asda's yesterday, and I said, "Do you want to be in the book?" So he's in.
We do get people ringing us up.
That's mad.
A girl from Barry rang me up and she said, "I want to be in your book, Arthur." I said, "What would you like to be?" She said, "I'd like to be a lady of the night." I said, "You're in." You can write it in. It's simple to write. It's.
And of course they fit in with the stories that we want to write, well, so it's
it makes sense.
And they're easy to write in, the plots and stuff, and then it's all polished up nice, and you end up with books.
And you've had a fantastic follow as well on social media and everything like that.
Well, you mean we set up the Terry Mcguire page, didn't we?
Yes. I think on website.
On website, we've got about, I think it's over 400 on the Terry Mcguire page. I set up my own poetry page, Arthur's Poems and Anecdotes. I got about 650 on that, and obviously
there's another 3 or 4 on the other pages.
Yeah, you were podcast, you know, we're on the Terry Mcguire page, also on my page.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like the poetry, out of 650, you people look at it, but you probably get about 100 comments. I did one World War poem on a Harry Patch. The other night I saw an interview with him. He's dead now, God bless him. He was the oldest veteran from the First World War, and he was talking about an incident that he was involved in. So I did a quick poem about that. I put it on, I shared it with the World War, and you'll have like 300 people watching it.
Yeah.
You mean, whereas on the poetry page you probably get, you put a good nice, they read them ordinarily, you could probably get about 120. Yeah. You get about 20%.
Yeah, that's good though, because obviously not everyone, as much as I don't think everyone appreciates poetry, and that's what it is now. Some people don't get it, they just don't.
I think what happens with poetry, I've been described as an authentic poet by poets. Now, when I was told initially you're an authentic poet, I said, "What are you talking about?" I write stories, my poetry stories, right? And I say it's poetry for the common man, basically. So if you read any of my poetry, it's a story and you'll understand it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't read poetry, but with some poetry that I read, I find it very highbrow and very deep. And I think that puts a lot of people off.
Yeah.
I think people like to read a poem and say, like the Aberfan and the Senghenydd poetry, the Gleisian poetry. One of the survivors of Gleisian got in touch with me, and read the poem, and I've actually given it to him because he wants to frame it for his grandchildren. And he said that's how it was.
Yeah.
I listened to the poet laureate's poem and I can't understand it. And I think that's the difference between poetry. People have got to understand it. Ordinary people have got to understand it. They can't look at 3 or 4 lines and think, I know what they're talking about, and put it away. These books here, they're all authentic. You've got 50 famous people. That's the coal mining, there's 50 in there, there's 50 war poems in there. You know what I mean? I got about 400 poems.
Yes, fantastic.
Yeah, you mean, so people like the poetry, and I just write them. It don't take me long, 20 minutes perhaps to write a poem.
Oh, I could never write that. No, I couldn't do it. I couldn't.
No, I
it's
struggle with
amazing.
it. I really struggle with poetry.
I did one for Caroline, didn't I?
You did? Yeah.
I did one for Caroline.
Did you try to take credit for it? It's like, I did this.
No, she didn't know.
No,
She didn't know.
Caroline School is built on
The site of...
a mine, and it was a disaster. And I'd been out to Nigel, we were going through the book, weren't we?
Yeah.
And Caroline came home lunchtime. So we were talking about the book, and she mentioned Miss Kedwin. And she said, will you write a poem for me, good brother? I said, yeah, go on again, woman. So I go home and what time?
Right, it was within the hour anyway, I think.
4 o'clock, and I did the poem. And the school have got it.
It's up on the wall in the school.
In the school with us. But, that's it. I love doing it. I write every day.
It's incredible. And obviously with your books, if people wish to purchase them, it's all on Amazon.
It is?
Yeah, they're on Amazon.
They're all on Amazon.
Or via Wordcatcher Publishing. Those are the 2 outlets for them.
And obviously they can get in touch with either one of them on social media as well,
yes,
couldn't they?
Yes, God, yeah, you mean we're there, we're available, just leave a message on the messenger or whatever.
And I think we've got one of these ratings on Facebook or Instagram where we reply within the hour, so if anybody does get in touch with us, we're pretty quick.
Yeah, not bad, fair play.
Yes, very good. Well, thank you very much for your time. It was absolutely amazing. I'm so happy I finally get the interview. So yes, and everybody, I will post the episode up on social media and YouTube as normal, and also give a shout out on radio. So thank you very much for everyone listening, and see you next week for another episode.